Hello.
Hey, what's going on, family? Shalom to everybody out there.
So I wanted to talk about that. Me and him had a long talk here recently, I think yesterday, about and today, about how now a culture has been created to pretty much allow the system to raise your children and your family, and it's taking the at one time the father out of the factor, and now essentially they're trying to remove the mother as well. And I'm not saying any laws or anything, but just how they are kind of subliminally, and I hope I'm saying it correctly, are are doing that. um so somebody somebody said you should show. Oh, you should show my face. I'm yelling in my mind. I ain't got no man. What does Nicole mean? That is hilarious. I guess she want to show her face. I don't get that one. But what are your thoughts, brother Keith? I mean, because we were having, I guess I'm just trying to.
Oh, man, the question is where to start with this because this is something that's near and dear to me. For those who don't know, I can't say over, but I'm involved in adult ministry specific to men at my local church, and being in the city, a predominantly black city, 65% down here in Memphis, man. You see some things. And like I said, it's very near and dear to me because when we look at the state of things, it's like you're seeing movements that's constantly trying to tear. First, it started off with fathers, black fathers. Now you're trying to, see how it now influences black women to be torn from their children. And I'm like, this is crazy. This is crazy. And the thing that I try to teach is about men understanding to be the foundations of the family, and that we have to make sacrifices in order to be the foundations of our family. For full transparency, I'm formally married. The reason I was formally married has nothing to do with what I did, and I'm gonna leave it at that. But I understood that, I had to forsake a lot of things to make the sacrifices in order for my family to thrive and to grow. And I think despite of what happened, I think for the children's sake, I think I was able to do that. But, there are some people who still in circumstances, like, wow, this is crazy. Because we can all come to the terms and say that it is spiritual warfare. It is spiritual warfare for anything that the Lord has ordained.
Yep.
And I think that's something that we have to keep in mind, and all these other things, especially by way of government, who's trying to step in and say we can replace the family. And now you got these things now called chosen families. Y'all ever seen any videos on that? Chosen families? And you got psychologists who saying that chosen families are better than your biological family because they don't bring the stress that causes depression and sadness and all those things. I'm like, wow, but that's the family experience.
Yep.
Learning how to deal with tough situations with your family while still loving them, and not just going to this kumbaya place and like, oh, everything is hunky dory, and I choose, who I want to be with and call family. But again, that's not something that the Lord had ordained. That's something that people are choosing to do.
Yep. Yep. And somebody said this whole thing of and I'm gonna say this, and I hope no one takes this personal. I'm not for the feminist movement. I've never been. When I did my research on the feminist movement, it was never meant for black people. It was never meant for black women. It was ultimately put in place to give more so white Caucasian women more access, and they used us as the face. And when
Yeah.
we got done, our families were broke, were torn apart.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's true. I'm at it. And that was the thing, because when it came to the movement, when black women tried to come in, they're like, nah, we really, don't want to deal with y'all to have any image concerns with it be tied to this movement. Because the thing that kicked white women off was that they thought that when it came down to blacks having rights to vote, of being free, they thought it was their opportunity to tag their suffrage movement to the slavery movement. and they see that, that the black man, got all his rights, and therefore, well, and therefore they got bitter about that black men were able to attain their voting rights and become citizens, and women still weren't allowed to vote. So when they had their suffrage movement, black women were excluded.
Mm-hmm.
Susan B. Anthony, if I'm correct, was like, no, we don't want to deal with that.
Yep. Yeah. And ultimately I think it divided the black family, because when you look at the feminist movement, you look back at it like, why were we involved? Because the black family was thriving, You had the husband and you had the wife. And we were pretty much a good model for family values back then. Um, but as time progressed, we decided we wanted to be involved in this movement for whatever reason. And that's when you really, really start seeing the destruction of the black family.
That's true.
The one thing they wanted to do was take the black father out. And they did, by way of the movement, also by way of government assistance. Because if you ever seen this movie, I forgot what the name of the movie was. It was made in the 70s, and it had Donna Care. I forgot her name, but she was a black mother living in the projects, and she was getting government assistance. She had a man whenever they came in her house, but it was a rule that you could not have a man in your house. So back then, the agencies would come to your house and check your house. Yeah, Claudine, yes. They would come and check your house to see if it was any man in the house or any type of clue that there was a man. If they saw new appliances, anything, they would say, okay, who bought you this? And when I saw the movie, someone, an older woman told me, yeah, that is true. They would come through your house. And if you had any signs of a man, you get your government assistance taken away. So that's why they kept them. That's how they kept that out the house. That's when you saw the drugs come in, when you saw the gang activity come in. That was the beginning of the end, and that was the ultimate goal. And now you got black women now that are doing well for themselves, like myself and others. But I don't take the approach of I don't need a man. No, I don't. I've been divorced now for what, 10 years, and God is blessed that I've been able to take care of my daughter and sustain her and sustain myself. But never once have I said, I don't need a man to take care of me. I was raised by a black man and a black woman. And one thing I know is it's better and it's easier to have a man in the house or a couple in the house raising your child together than doing it by yourself. So, because a man brings, like for instance, dealing with your children, I'm gonna be honest. I'm strict, but I'm not strict enough. But I'm strict enough to the point that my daughter knows that I don't go behind, don't go behind these lines because you might get snatched. But yet and still, in some cases, you still hold on to them. And you just like, this is mine. Where I saw my dad telling me, let her go, let her get out here and experience, let her go to college, let her experience life. You're coddling her, let her go. And that was what most of the times you see men doing. Men will stand and say, let that child go and grow. Even conversations we've had and we've laughed about it, that let her experience college. So I see the importance of a man being in the house. What are your thoughts?
Hey, man, because, for me, growing up on a farm, it's mostly men. I had both grandfathers, my fathers, great uncles, uncles. And the beautiful side of that, too, were the women, because I had both my great grandmothers, paternal and maternal, who raised me, and then my grandmother and whatnot. But like I said, the culture was male dominated. And it was, seeing the dynamic of how the men and the women worked together, everybody knew the part they had to play. I remember one time, I think I was like about 7 years old. And I had told my grandmother, I said, I want a BB gun. So she told my grandfather. My grandfather was a hard man, but he wasn't a harsh man. Because he's former military. He's a corporal in the Army, served in Korea. So he called me in there. He said, boy, what is this I hear about you want a BB gun? And he lit into me. I mean, he lit into me hard. because of the dangers about having a gun. But I'm looking over there at my grandmama. Grandmama like said she gonna help. She kept right on cooking. Didn't even blink, bat. I even look up. So everybody understood that their position when your family structures is constructed the right way, and especially when it's done out of love. Now, going back to something that you were saying about the welfare thing, I don't know if anyone familiar with the economist Milton Friedman. I like him. Matter of fact, he was a teacher of Thomas Sowell, and I'm very a very staunch follower of Thomas Sowell and economics and all that. But back in the 70s and the 80s, early 80s, I think, he had this show called Free to Choose. And the thing is that he highlighted a black family. It was a man, wife, and two kids. I think the mom would stay at home, and he was an orderly at the hospital. One of his children, I think, had asthma real badly. And the thing was, he was like, well, he went to ask for government support. And they told him that this child could not receive any support if he was in the household. That's crazy. If he was in the household, that child could not get the money for the necessary treatment. So what he had to do, what he ended up doing was picking up more hours at the hospital in order to afford the treatment for that child. And so those are the things that, when we look at, do we really want government in our business?
Yeah.
Especially our family business and whatnot. But see, the thing is that when we look at after the 60s movement and whatnot, we saw that become so prevalent that there were some women who chose that, you know what, I choose this money over, he's not making enough. So I choose this over having a strong relationship. And I think that's by design because like you said, we were married. We were even married in slavery. If you go back and look at some of the slave records, in great number, we were married. And the thing is that because of that we personified family.
Uh-huh.
I believe that's the reason why it's under attack in the black community, because never in a time in history have you seen black man and black woman so divided.
Yeah.
And see, I can go into my cultural spills about that and talk about the politics behind it, but but make no mention that with this high income, as you were saying, Sister E, that a lot of women are like you. They do say they don't need no man.
I ain't never said that. I ain't never said
I said unlike you. You
that.
say that. I said they
Yeah.
don't like you. They say they don't need. I don't need and whatnot. And the thing is, is that we need each other.
Yep.
That's the basis of family, because we looking at the Most High, who is personal. We're personal with Him, and He wants us to have personal relationships. Else He wouldn't ordain marriage in God. No way. He wants us to have that.
Yep.
But you got so many forces which are demonic that's really striking at the core of foundation. You got. I don't want to get your channel
Go ahead and say it. No, I'm good.
So you got these. I would say alternative marriages. How are you going to redefine what the Lord has said?
Yep.
Now you got these people saying. I saw some of the craziest things I ain't never seen before, where you had a trans man become a woman become a man. They get together. The man that was a woman has a baby, and the woman who thinks and now is a man trying to breastfeed. I'm like, that's the craziest mess I done seen in my life.
Yeah. Wow. And they're using us as
Yeah, they're using us as the capitalists, because here's the thing, because they're like, okay, if we paint, if we this is what they did. If we hijack the pain of black folks, if we hijack the pain and make the culture sensitive towards their pain, then we can use the black folk to push any agenda, because who's going to attack them? Because if anybody attack them, they're racist.
yeah.
I have any pushback, they're racist. So that's the game they play.
So you said something very interesting, using blackface to push another agenda. That's interesting. And we had that conversation about that. And the confusion lies in when you look at the homosexual movement. In most cases, they've always used us as the poster child. Why? And when you said that, that kind of clicked with me, and that's sad. That's sad. So we here now. Let's go and talk.
Yeah, the door open now,
I don't know.
and that's the thing. And the thing that I hate so much is that I'm gonna have to say that we got some of our prominent sisters who fall for the okie doke, especially in the boule.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at the deltas, the AKs, and all the rest of them, they really brag about putting Biden in office. Oh, we did it. We did that. I say, but in the same breath, there's some things there's some baggage that come with that. Now, again, transparency. I'm pro-life, and that's just the way it is. I think that the Most High creates things. It's by no mistake that He creates things, and that is why I am. I'm pro-life. And so I say, so y'all jumping on that bandwagon, but what comes with that? What comes with that? I mean, so we look at the standpoint, I think I said this on Berean China, look at the millions of Black babies that had been killed.
Wow.
And then if we go back and look at Margaret Sanger, she was very upfront. She was trying to get rid of Blacks and people with disabilities
Yep.
because she didn't believe they had the mental capacity.
Yeah. When you look at the Negro Project, who was on the council for them? And I hate to say it, that Boule community. I looked at the council that was on the Negro Project, which was driven by Margaret Sanger. I was like, wow. They went into the Black churches and asked them, hey, can you help us with this? And that's the sad part. But again, it goes back into when you have a strong man in the house, a Margaret Sanger can't slip through the door.
Amen to that. And I thank my father, my grandfathers and father, because they were, and even the ones I didn't know, my great grandfathers, they all were strong men. They had their issues. But the thing is, I know about those men is that they loved their family and they would have did anything to protect their family. And they wanted everyone doing the things the right way, without question. I grew up, it is what it is. I didn't back talk. They said it, the men said it, and I was like, okay. Because they instilled, because you trusted them, that they had your best interest. And I think as men, that's one thing that we have to always do is that with our women and our children, we have to submit that we have their best interest at all times, because we're gonna make some decision that's gonna have the whole house mad. But later on down the road, they're gonna see that. Hey, on down the road, they're gonna see, well, yeah, that was the best decision to make. And at the same breath, too, about being a man is that we have to be knowledgeable and have discernment of that our wife also can speak to us by way of the Holy Spirit in order to do things. And that's where the true connection lies, right there.
You know what? And one thing I do like about my community, and the community as a whole, and not just my community, but even all communities, because when you think about it, we're all still the same. But when I look at the communities now, we're moving towards pro family. In the Black community. When you look at our groups, the different groups, we are pro family. And what's funny is it is rare to see people single.
And that's one thing that I'm excited to see with the Israel community. It is the emphasis on family, because that's the core. And that, like I said, every time we speak on that, that really excites me to hear that someone is adhering to the importance of the family.
But you know what? Even with the Black Christian community, when you look at a lot of these prominent men in their faith, in their lives, every single one of them are married and they are there for their families.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing a change, but you got the other side of that. I don't believe in a woman being catty. I don't, but I also on the other end
Being what?
Being catty.
Oh, okay.
and being hateful. And also, I believe I understand what submission means because I lived in it. My
Mhm.
mom and my dad worked together, they were a unit. Um, and it was never thing of a doormat. And when you have the head of your house acting as a head, a wife doesn't have a problem with doing what she needs to do. Now, like you said, there's gonna be some nights where the whole family gonna be mad when the
Oh
decision
yeah.
is made. Yep. Pops made some decisions where all of us was like, we got to figure this out, but the decision was made. Um, and at the end of the day, when we later on looked at it, hindsight, it was a good decision because my dad was one of those that rarely said, "Now this is how it's gonna go," because he understood how to function as a head and a husband. My
Hmm.
dad was the one taught me how to cook, taught me how to clean. My dad is a better cook than my mom. So it was never a problem about the whole thing of this is what a man's supposed to do. No, a man is a provider. My dad was a provider. He had two daughters. Um, but when he put his foot down, I promise you, I never saw my mama say, "Well, we finna do this anyway." She'd just come to me and say, "This is the decision," and I'd just be like, "You know what?" But you respected that. It's nothing wrong with a man being the head of the house.
Yeah.
That's what we're missing it now. It's like ain't no man gonna tell me what to do. Well, that's why you're single. Period. I ain't finna be single for the rest of my life. Period. I have no problems with that. But it's just somebody like me would be considered to be, are you weak? No, I'm not weak. I can hold my own, but it's good to hold it together than hold it by yourself.
Amen. Amen. That is so true. And when we look at we look at God's word and we see in it where it says, husbands, you are to love your wives,
Mhm.
and then your wives are to respect the husbands. That is so key, because I think sometimes especially when you go to inside the city, you talk to these younger girls, and like they hyper masculine.
Oh,
No,
wow.
they want respect. They gonna respect everything's respect, respect. But I like baby girl. But what about love though?
Yeah.
What about love? I said men are charged to love. You are charged to respect.
Yeah.
And so we got this thing flipped, as it relates to order and whatnot. I said, no, you have to respect that man. And the thing is, now saying that, you got to be careful of what you putting out and what you choosing. Same thing now on that part, same thing for the men. Be careful what you putting out and the choices that you made and whatnot. And I think we'll start seeing better results. We have to hold ourselves to a high accountability because when we look at this thing holistically, since all of us are in Yeshua, all of us, we have to look everything through spiritual lenses.
Yeah.
We can't step outside of things and say, okay, well, I'm gonna put my spiritual glasses down. I'm gonna look at no. You took the whole shit. You bend the knee to the king. You took the king's shilling. So you gotta take everything that comes with it. And so and that's the thing that when we look at things, we look at situations, when we look at, for those who are unmarried, such as myself, how we court, we have to look at that even through spiritual lenses. Those who are married, we have to look at how the household is ran through spiritual lenses. Because well, the world is adamantly opposed to the words of Yah.
Yeah.
Adamantly opposed. So my thing is, if we're gonna judge the world, why are we taking advice from the world?
Correct. Correct. And you said a mouthful right there. We're taking advice from the world and how to run our families when we're supposed to be taking the word that teaches us how to run our families.
Amen.
And things are so out of order now. One thing I can't stand, and I'm gonna say this much: Sister E does not like a weak man. I don't.
I could tell that. I could tell that. I could tell that. I could tell how you be over there over red cutting up.
No weak man. Oh my God, I cut up all the time over there. But I can't stand a weak man. If you weak and you can't make a decision, I can't deal with it. I was raised by, I had my mom and I had my dad and I had my uncle and the men that were in my life were men. They stood by. I mean, I remember as a kid being the only girl in the midst of 9 male cousins.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the 9, I think like 4, because my uncle had all boys, 9 boys. And only about four or five of them, no, 4 of them were the same age as me. But really 2 of them I hung with all the time. Well, really 3. And we would all go somewhere together. And the first thing my grandfather would tell us when we would spend the summer at my granddad's house, um, watch your cousin Nikki.
Mm.
That's the only girl. That she a girl? Y'all boys better make sure you bring her back in one piece. Don't. If somebody say something to it, y'all say something to her. Y'all handle it. And my uncle would say the same thing. Watch your cousin. And because I was the only girl, I had a younger sister, but she was too young to hang with us. And lo and behold, they was that way. They protected me wherever I went. So wherever I was around guys in my family, they protected the women. There's nothing wrong with that. I shouldn't have to tote a gun. If I'm married to a man and they hear somebody coming through the front door, he better get up, go get the gun and see what's going on. Because if I have to do it, we got a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause that's how we are over here. We got those heaters over here now. Hey, my old pastor used to call it the modern day Moses rod. We got those heaters now. And that's how we are with the women in our family. We are very protective, especially of my daughters, very protective. I had a young man, I hope she don't watch this because I'm spilling the beans, who called me and asked for a hand. I said, well, you do know that you're replacing me in the areas of security and finance. And so are you able to do those things? Are you able to provide security? Are you able to provide finances and whatnot? Because if you can't do that, I don't need you marrying her, because she comes from a situation where, again, it's a lot of men and we're protective, and that's what she's going to be used to.
Yep.
And
Yep.
whatnot. So he said he understood that. So we'll see.
Yep. Yeah, we But you know what? I remember when I told my dad I wanted a gun. I said, Dad, I want a gun. And he was like, do you really need a gun? I said, I just want one. And this was a couple of years back. And then just recently I was shopping for a gun. But he said, well, I got a gun. And I heard my mama say, Lonzo, don't go open that, don't go get that gun. And my dad said, I'm just finna show her the gun. So he went and got a bag and poured the guns out on the table and said, pick one. I said, you have this many guns in the house. He said, if somebody come out of this house walking, they ain't gonna leave out walking.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of situation of how I grew up. I grew up outside the city, and outside the city was pretty racist at one point. And because my grandfather, was prominent, but the Jefferson family was prominent because we came out of slavery. We talked about this, West Tennessee, like Alex Haley family. West Tennessee was one of the first places that was selling land to former slaves, and so my folks came by way of Virginia, came to Tennessee and bought a whole bunch of land. And so because of that, you have the whites with lower education and lower means, they become jealous of that.
Yep.
And so you had the Klan who would test my folk. And I remember I had to be about 5 years old. So this might be 79, 80. 1979, 1980. My grandfather went in the back room like your dad did. Just pulled out a whole bunch of guns on the floor. And everybody put them in socks so they could put them off in their vehicle before they traveled anywhere. So everybody in the family had that heater. So you round up, you're gonna get touched up. But that is what it was back then. My great uncle had to kill a white man. I think killed 2. So that is what it is. Those were the times in which they lived. And unfortunately, we still live in some times where our safety at times is sometimes compromised. So I'm a huge advocate of the Second Amendment and your gun rights or whatnot. So
Yep.
on that part.
I think that's why dating has always been a struggle for me, because the things that my dad did, I expect a man to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
My dad taught me You walk into a place and you put your hand on the doorknob, that's a problem. If you go to the car and that you have to open your own, these are just basic things. And he said, pay attention to those things because those type of qualities, they will have those type of qualities going into a marriage. And my dad always just made sure that I understood what. Now I made some bad decisions, but I still knew the framework of what a good husband was,
Yes.
what a good provider was, and what is. He still is, because he's still here. I remember when I was getting ready to move, my mom was just upset. And my dad said, let this girl go live. And guess what? My mom got over it. It's just, he always gave us that point of wisdom sometimes. He'll sit quiet and just watch what we're doing. Because he used to always get mad. He said, I'm sick of y'all. Everybody in the house is a woman, including the dog. I'm leaving. And we go somewhere and then come back. But he still knew how to love us. He knew how to take care of his daughters and his wife. So, and he still does. He's 80 years old and still goes to work because he feels like I'm not sitting in no house. I'm not supposed to sit in the house. My mom was like, "You're retired," and he's not finna do it.
Hey, that's like a saying in my family. A man in this family is supposed to die on the tractor. Hey, that's about what it comes down to, realistically. And I understand how your dad feels about things because now the daughters that I raised weren't my biological daughters.
That is wonderful.
And
Wow.
and the thing is, even after my ex and I split, I still felt obligated to the children that they still needed me. And so and people like, you crazy. I said, you ain't with the mama no more. I said, why you still? I said, because I made a obligation to the kids.
That is commendable.
And it's important to me that I keep that obligation because, they were, truthfully, they were under my roof longer than they had been their own biological dads.
Wow.
And especially for the youngest one, I am her dad. I mean, so it was just crazy that, I will abandon those duties that I took on, regardless of the fact that I wasn't with the mama no more. And I'm glad that I maintained those relationships because, joy with the granddaughter and still, feel needed and wanted and loved by them. So it's key. It's key that, as men, that we follow through with what it is that we agree to do.
Yep. That's amazing. You can't even get men to even see to their own kids.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I think me and you I had mentioned, I think on a live or we talked, I don't remember, but when a woman divorces, how to conduct yourself as a divorced woman. And I've been divorced now for what, 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
8, so 14 years now, 15 years. About that. But my dad had a long talk with me and he said, let me explain to you some things you need to do to ensure that you do as what you're supposed to do far as the father. He said, do not keep the child away from her father.
Right.
2, don't talk about him badly in front of her. Anything that she makes a decision on, let it be her decision and not yours. Whatever y'all got going on, don't be that woman. Don't take that bitterness with you. Because whatever you were hurt from and whatever happened, get better, heal from it, let it go, move on. And don't let his baggage be the next man's baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the 3 main things he said to me. And I always made sure to do all 3. Never kept her away from her father. And I hate when women do that. When women keep the kids away from the father because of whatever reason, it hurts the kids ultimately. And I can't, and that sickens me. And we talk about deadbeat dads, and I'm not for the deadbeat dads, but we got to hold some of these women also accountable of their fathers out here that want to see their kids, want access to their kids, but the mother is so angry for whatever reason is keeping that child away. And I mean, every summer, because I lived out of town, I lived 5 hours away from my family and him. But every summer or every holiday, I would call him and say, "Hey, we're headed there. Is she ready for the summer? You can get her however you want it. If you want to pick her up for whatever reason, let me know. We can make arrangements." if it's outside of the holidays. And always kept that communication open and never made our issue her issue. So, but women just don't know how to do that, and I'm glad we segued into that, being divorced and how to conduct yourself.
Oh man, it's tough, especially when you aren't the offending party,
Yes.
and you did everything that you were supposed to do in the covenant relationship under the covenant agreement. And it's very tough. And I admit I was bitter because I have done this and that. I put myself last for the love and the sake of family all the time. And then you get like, oh wow, this happens in return. So what was key for me when I got back home was to go through a care ministry at my church. And I ain't gonna lie, man, if I hadn't done that, I'd probably still be bitter right now. And I'm telling you, when you're bitter, that eats at you. That really eats at you, because the thing was, I know it's a soul issue. It's a spirit issue, I should say. It's a spirit issue because I was struggling with Crohn's. What I do now, Crohn's disease is what I struggle with. And the thing was, I was away from the situation. I was doing a little bit better. I wasn't putting on no weight. I was just still walking around there, 160 pounds, whatnot. But the moment, as I was going through those counseling sessions, I think I did 8 of them. You start seeing, I started looking healthier, gaining healthier weight and things like that, because I was letting go of the bitterness. And like I said, bitterness does affect you spiritually and your body.
Yep.
Then I had a cousin who was a physician who told me that. She said a lot of these things, Keith, are tied to your spirit. And you have to be careful of how you harbor negativity. That's why you take everything to the Lord in prayer. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I went through that, and then I started having counseling. And that's what really got me over the hump of dealing with the bitterness that I had. Because again, when you're not the one that's offending, you look back at everything you thought, and then you start thinking, well, I waste all this time when I could have married someone else, and blah, blah, blah. You start having those thoughts in your head.
Yeah.
And then unlike you, again, she was trying to keep the kids away from me.
Wow.
And but I still called the schools. I still kept in contact with the one of the aunts who kept me updated on everything. And so she kept me, and then one day something happened. I got a call. Monty had ran away. Basically, she had came to Tennessee to her stepmom's, and I went up there to find out what was going on. That's when I found out that as a 16-year-old, she was pregnant. And so it came down to, do I put my money where my mouth is? Again, I'm pro-life. I called her mama and said, I saw her. I said, we ain't killing no babies. And so she disagreed, but I said, at the end of the day, we're not killing no babies. I said, what's done is done. And I said, it's up to us now to pull together as a family to do the best we can with this situation. And, the Lord has given us strength in that. And we doing what we need to do. The baby lacks nothing now, and she's my bundle of joy. But the funny thing about it, again, at this time we were divorced, so I had no guardian rights.
Wow.
But I put my foot down and said, this is not going to happen. We're going to move in this direction. And it happened.
Wow. That right there is, I commend you again for taking the role when you didn't have to. Because where society is going now is, if it ain't, like I said, some don't even want to take care of the ones that's actually theirs. You actually took on your kid, I don't want to say stepkids because they're not stepkids. You took on the role of a father, when not you, from a legal standpoint, you didn't have to,
Right,
but you
right.
did. And I commend you for that. And I pray many blessings over you and over your health, because again, you do what you're supposed to do as a father. And again, most wouldn't do that.
I
Because
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
I'm looking at the flip side where, I don't speak against them, but it's a struggle sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that to brag. It's kind of encourage men who are in situations which I have been in, and then to encourage those who haven't been stepping up to the responsibility. Because I ain't nobody special. But the thing is that we have to step up and honor our obligations as parents, and because the Lord placed us in charge of those kids,
Yep.
and whether the parents are married or not, it is key that they're raised by both. Yeah, we know that being in the same household does yield better results. Sometimes that doesn't happen. But for me, and I'm gonna say this, I can't speak for the women, regardless of what she throws out there, man, you just gotta bite it, grit it, and keep moving, and try to let them kids know that you love them. And I'm telling you, when they get older, it pays off. Well, I know my dad loved me because he fought. He
Yep.
fought truth and that. And it's funny because as the girls gotten older, they in their 20s now. And they realize, like, you know what? Keith really did love us. And he did this, he did that, he did that. When they were younger, they didn't see that. Plus they was under the influence of their mother. But as they got older, they like, wow, he really did do that. And they respect and honor me. And I can't ask for anything more.
Wow, that's a blessing. That's a blessing. That goes into good parenting. You eventually work out on the other end, where your children end up loving and respecting you more when they, and that's what my mom said. My mom used to
Hmm.
always tell me, "You're not gonna understand until you have one of your own." She's always say that to me when she get on my case. You're not gonna understand why I'm doing it until you have one of your own. And I would just be like, man, I can't go to this party. I can't do this. This lady is on my neck. She knew where I was going. She's like, you won't understand. I'd be like, why is she calling me all the time? And guess what? I got one of my own. And I mean, I had to call my mom and I said, you were right. She said, what? And you don't understand until they get older and leave you.
Uh-huh.
My mom, I said, I won't understand until I have one of my own. She said, you feeling it now? I said, yes. She said, all right. That's all I wanted to know. She said, keep on going. It'll get better.
That's right. And that's key too, because as you get older, like I said, you see them girls get older, the children get older. And people ask me, do I worry a lot? I said, no, I don't, because I know where their foundation is.
Correct.
I said they may step out and try something. I did. I had a solid foundation, but at the end of the day, they're gonna come right back to the teachers that they learned at an early age. And that's key, because and that's where the roles of the mother and the father is so important. Either mother, grandmother, grandfather, as a lot in my case. My parents had me young, so I was raised predominantly by them. Is that each one teaches biblical principles in a unique way,
Yep.
you know. And that's what happened to me. They do it in a unique way. For my grandmother, she was a teacher for 32 years. So it was like classroom, how she taught me, while my grandfather, since we were farmers, he would show me the principles by way of how we farmed, how to trust in the Lord for rain, how to trust that he's going to water the seeds for them to grow. So, each one, that's why they're so important, because they play off each other in the spiritual development of a child.
Yep. And you know what? My mom always taught me, and I always reference them because everything comes back to me for a reason, for whatever purpose. And my mom, another thing, when I did divorce, my mom taught me this. She said, my dad had a conversation with me, but my mom had the real woman to woman conversation with me. She said, if I don't teach you nothing, whoever she ends up being is who you be in front of her. She's
Ooh.
watching your every move. And I was like, okay. She said, one thing I'm going to tell you, conduct yourself as a lady at all times, because whatever you are, she's going to be. Don't have men running in and out of your house. And I was like, what did she talk? She said, don't have, every time she see you, every 2 months, you got a new man. She going to repeat the behavior. And because of that, people ask me all the time, E, why are you single? Why are you single? Because I had to raise my daughter. And I had to be very, very careful in who I brought around her. Um, because I knew she was watching me. And I didn't realize she was watching me until now. She's in college and we're having certain conversations. And I'm just like, wow, you could have made whatever. And she's very open with me. Sometimes she's too open with me with conversations. I'm just like, okay, that's too much information. But we have such a close bond and relationship. She feels free to come to me and say, Mom, this is what happens. Because she knows that I know how to chastise her and talk to her, but I also know how to give her wisdom. But with that being said, she ain't around here chasing after every single boy she sees. She understands the importance of keeping herself in order. She's made a point to say, I'm gonna wait till I'm married, those type of things. And I'm sitting here and I'm saying, wow, where did this kid come from? And my mom said it's because of how you conducted yourself. She said, now outside of them, out of the doors, you probably was buck wild and she didn't see it. I said, no, I wasn't, but I was wild. She said, but you never allowed her to see you get out of order. She never saw a bunch of men. And I said, you're right. Never. Never.
You's a good mama, Sister E.
I try.
You the mama role model.
I wish. I still made some mistakes. I ain't trying. I'm like, I ain't trying to brag. I made some mistakes, but you love them. And
That's true.
Love
That's
them
true.
is your driving force.
Mm-hmm.
I love that little kid so much. That I never wanted her to be a broken adult.
Yeah, and that's key, and that's part of my thing too. Is regardless of what happened, I didn't want these girls to be broken.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, in the fall for any type of man.
Correct.
And the fall now, like I said, they saw me with their mom. They saw me now without their mom, and really in my dating life, it's nothing different. That I'm still the same. I have yet to bring anyone around, a lady friend around them because, I want them to understand that, I'm still a gentleman, and there's a certain man that I want them to, I guess I want to say not to exactly use me as a template, but keep me in the background as you choosing who you want to be with. And I think in the younger one's case, the boy's okay. He has some growing to do. Not a bad kid. Nowhere near a street dude. And so I'm like, I can't complain with that. He's been a sheltered boy most of his life. So,
Yeah.
and he respects the family. That's key. He respects the family.
That's good.
And whatnot. So I think she's on a good path with who she chooses.
That's good. I don't know how we start talking about our kids because my baby is a mama's baby to her heart.
Oh yeah, that is true now. That is true.
Keith knows she is.
She look just like you.
Keith knows she's a mama's baby. She is truly. I left her at college. She said, "I'm so happy you're still in the same city with me." I said, "I'm not gonna be in the same city too long." But she is truly she'll play like she ain't a mama's baby. But yeah, she's a mama's baby. Like she is. I gotta work on that.
Did you say at one time that she's also a grandpa's baby?
Oh yes. Oh, her granddad. Now, out of all of us, she loves him the most. Her granddaddy is her. She said something to me. She said, I didn't have a lot that came from my father, but I thank God that I had a grandfather that did what I needed to be done. And my dad, that is his world. I'm talking about he ain't gonna let nobody mess with her, not even her mama sometimes. And I have to be like, I'm the mother, but you just too hard on her. But he does give her wisdom. He does give her good wisdom, sound wisdom. But that is, like you say, Papa. That's
Yeah, that's my youngest, my granddaughter. That's my baby. But see, the thing about it is that I was attached. I love my grandfathers, loved them dearly, great men. But it was something about my grandmama though. That woman there, that was just, hey, I see her. Everything was all right. I don't care, the world could be falling, but when I saw her, everything was all right. She would bring the peace. I would say that. And my grandfathers would bring the strength.
Yep.
So I don't know if I was having any trouble with anybody. I know to look to my granddad's, but if I needed this peace, there go my grand. I call her my mama back then. And so I saw my mama. Oh man, I was in heaven. on earth, literally back then.
That's so sweet. Now that's the
Yeah.
opposite with Madison.
Huh?
Her and her grandmama.
And that's typically the case. It's typically the case. The boys be with the grandmamas and the granddaughters be with the grandfathers. That's usually how it is.
Oh yes. I mean,
Yeah,
he light up every time she FaceTime him. He just light up. I'm just like, that's a shame.
that's a good thing. But I see somebody said that the conversation conquered the rock, and but I guess to get back to the conversation is really there is joy in having a family.
It is.
It is joy. I wouldn't trade mine for anything in the world through the ups and downs, smiles and frowns. I wouldn't trade mine for anything in the world. But the thing is that we have to be vigilant at all times. And here's the thing about that is that we can't get too flippant to what we believe we don't have blind spots.
Your favorite word, flip it.
Yeah, flip it. We to where we can't we gotta understand we got blind spots.
Yep.
When it comes to this faith thing, and the devil will use any opportunity to get in those blind spots in order to ruin the relationship with your family.
Yep.
Especially again, going back to the beginning, especially between the man and the woman.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, I think your boy you hate, but that's okay. Kevin Samuel gave the statistics. 1 out of 4 women, black women, get married. And I think one of the statistics, this was last year, he asked the question, and it was interesting. And I was just listening. I said, this is interesting. He said he asked the question, do black women feel like they belong to black men? Opposed to other races, most of the other races say, yeah, they felt like their men belong to them. It was a low number for black women.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? So with that, it made me ask, what's the question? I mean, what's the question to be asked? How do we look at the dynamics of the family from a scriptural perspective? What aren't we doing? What aren't we promoting from a scriptural perspective in order to heal families, bring families together? Because someone said it in the comment that systematic racism and some of the other things. But at the end of the day, when we pull the cover back on those, it comes down to spiritual warfare.
Yep.
You see, and that's the thing. Spiritual warfare comes under all names. So many names, it's ridiculous. And I think that's the first thing that we have to recognize. Then, the Ephesians says it's not against, we're not going against flesh and blood. We're going against spiritual things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have to, and for me in relationships, period, when I don't agree with people, I have to keep in mind that, the flesh is going to automatically make me hostile because it's the closest thing bringing me pain. So I see that person face to face, and all I see is that's the one that's bringing me pain. And again, not putting on my spiritual lenses and say, this is a part of spiritual warfare. How do I approach this? How do I deal with it? And I think in our family situations, this is certain things that we have to be mindful of and develop our relationship. And as I always say, you know me with this, first thing in the morning, what am I doing?
Studying.
First thing, as soon as I get up. Because I don't want to get in the flesh, man. Because I tell anybody, I'm gonna be transparent with y'all. I know about my temper, so it's critical that I stay in the Word of God.
Yeah, somebody said Alton was talking on his show about had a Christian dating program in church. You know what? That's not bad at all.
Well, we have it. It's funny. We had this discussion the other day with some of my leadership, the guys above me, and we have singles ministry. But this for the 20s and 30s. I said, hey, man, y'all need to get it for the 40s and the 50s, man. I'm talking just like that. I said, hey, man, you need to get it for the 40s and the 50s, too. I said, you got old folk. I said, who, by no fault of their own, divorce and spouse done passed. They want somebody, too.
Correct.
I say, so the thing is, you don't want them going out there into the world trying to date.
Yes. Yes, I agree. But back to that point of view, every morning, yep, studying, and you gotta get that because it made me start doing it a little bit more than normal. I haven't done it in the past week because work has been a nightmare. Where I wake up every morning, go to bed. Well, nightmare. It's just been busy. I take that back. It's just
Yeah.
been very, very busy. That I don't have. I don't. When I wake up in the morning and go to bed, it's that. So, with that though, I actually had started going into the back into the book of Proverbs, and
Okay.
that's where I'm going to stay for a little bit. I'm going to stay in Proverbs for a little bit for that wisdom. That wisdom is key, but it is key. You gotta create a routine. You gotta study, and
Yeah.
you just tripped me out when you said that you do every morning. So, and I commend you for that because I don't always do that every morning.
Hey, cause see, I again, I'm very self-aware. I'm
Yeah.
very self-aware. And the thing is that when I start as what's his name, Brian was saying, when I start feeling some type of way, hey, the scriptures come to mind. Like, okay, you need to kind of fall back
Yep.
on that.
Yep.
So I know me.
Yeah.
That's how I stay laid back. Now I tell people, how you so cool, calm, and laid back? I say because I keep them scriptures in my mind because I know when the flesh gets involved, it gets ignorant.
Yep. Yep. And that's key for a wife too to be praying.
Yeah.
Praying,
Oh, that's so key. That's so
praying
key
on
because
your knees.
it
Right.
makes me think about what you said about submission.
Mm-hmm.
Submission is not a dirty word. It is not. I had the opportunity about 4 years ago to meet Lee Strobel. He's a Christian apologist. And he the one who wrote the book, The Case for Christ.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Great book, by the way, because he was totally an unbeliever. He was totally an unbeliever. What happened was his wife became a believer. He was upset about it, but she kept praying. She kept praying, Lord, give him a heart, take his heart of stone, give him a heart of flesh. She said that was her prayer every night for her husband. And that's when he decided to embark on that journey to find out was Christ was real, and all the evidence pointed that Christ was real. And so, you look at those things. I said, now her children are in some way involved in ministry somewhere, somehow. I said, this woman has saved generations of her family by being submissive to her husband and to the Lord because she never disrespected him because he was a non-believer. She just kept praying for him. And I'm like, I said, man, that's like one of the greatest stories I ever heard.
Yep. But
That's right.
that whole feminist movement pushed that submission means you're a doormat.
Yeah, it does. It did do that. It did do that. See, we had this conversation before. I said what they didn't tell black women is that they were still gonna go out and get a husband. They were
Yeah.
going, I say they were gonna live wild when they're young, and that's true because I went to a PWI, and when I say that the white girls were wild, they were wild. But when they got that BS degree, they also got that MRS degree too when they walked out that institution. I said, and that's the memo that the black women missed. While they was out here doing this, living any kind of way, living licentiously, at the end of the day, they still got that husband
Correct.
and
Correct.
moved on. While again, 1 out of 4 of black women are getting married. Now, not to say that us men didn't play some role into what's going on because I know certain things happen in the community. I know for a fact that I saw it in Memphis when the crack epidemic hit the streets
Yep.
and whatnot. But at some point, though, we have to recognize again what is going to be beneficial to us for the short term and what's going to be beneficial to us in the long term. And
Correct.
back in the day, a lot of cats went to jail.
Yeah.
I got some close friends right now that did some older guys that did some long stints under the mandatory drug law. One of them, we still real tight today. He like an uncle to me. We still real tight, but he did what he did. He regret, but he's thankful to be out now because he got grandkids.
That's great. That's interesting. Something that I did, and a lot of my female friends was like, "Why are you doing that?" Now, did it work for me? No, I ain't gonna say it didn't work for me. But when I got married, um, we right around that time, right after that, we had Madison,
Mm-hmm.
and both of us working. It was hard,
Yeah.
very hard. And I think he had gotten a job where he was making a little bit more money to support the house. He asked me, and I had a pretty good job where a couple of my friends ended up getting internships and moving up in their career a little bit faster than myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was going to college, and he was going to college, and he was just like, "We can't do this." So he said, "Can you do this? Can you? Because I can't come home and do this. I'm working hard. I trying to figure out what I'm gonna eat, all this, trying to get me you coming in, trying it was just chaos." And he was like, "Somebody gotta stop working. Can you please stop working?" And it was a hard decision because it was a career, building my career at that time.
Right. Right.
And I was like, man, because I was working for First Tennessee. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. My career. I'm going to school, studying I mean, at that time, information technology. This is an opportunity. And then on the other end, I said, my family. And I said, well, I guess I'm going to quit. And when I quit, everybody was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm doing this for the sake of my family. We can't do this. Um, and I walked away from my job.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back at it, that was the best thing I could have ever did because I got a chance to get Madison at a stable place. People don't realize the importance of those first 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Very important. Because of that, Madison excelled in reading and math. She was she was a little bit more. I never had conduct issues. I never had issues with her in school. I never really had issues. She was a little bit more grounded than most. Whereas two parents in the house who's helping them or guiding them through certain things. And I think I made a very good decision. And it was hard, but I knew I had to make it.
Yeah.
And I became a housewife. And my friends talked about me bad. Like, are you serious? And I said, I'm doing this for the sake of my family because I understood the importance of family.
Yeah.
Um, this job, I'm gonna get a ton of jobs, but a family, this is the only family I'll get. And it was hard. The first month, I was like, what am I doing? But I did it. I was one of those I did, and I ended up loving it. I didn't mind cooking, didn't mind cleaning because I did that anyway. I didn't mind taking care of my daughter, and he did his part too as well. And I won't take anything from him at that time. He was providing for the house, and I took the role very serious.
Yeah.
And it was a job for me. Like you leave, it was like a process. Like you at home, you eating breakfast. I'm looking at him the whole time, like I need you to leave so I can go ahead and clean up because my mind it was a process. Like so we can do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. So by the time you get home, I done cooked. I can, but it wasn't like a doormat. I loved it, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
partnership. Like if you stay at home too late, I'm looking at you like you create more dishes. I need you to go. But that was I took it serious, and I think it was the best decision I could have made. Even though at the end of it, I still ended up getting a divorce. But I still, me and Madison, I think that ties to that bond because that
Yeah.
first 5 years we kind of locked horns. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a situation that Monty's in. Again, she had Lonnie young, and we had a conversation probably about a couple months ago because she's been in college, and she was at Austin P this last semester prior to now, and she went back to South Carolina, and she was like, "I've been thinking." I said, "What you been thinking?" She said, "I think it'd be best if I stay at home until Lonnie is school age." I said, "I don't think there's an issue with that and whatnot." And I said, my only thing is just finish what you started. But, I understand the importance of a parent being at home in um, those early childhood development stages. Matter of fact, that was one of the things I concentrated on when I was getting my master's in education about how important those first early childhood years are, just like you said too. And I said, I don't have a problem with that. So she's like, cool. So this girl here, she done figured it out, man. She got a whole nail parlor in her apartment. nail polish apartment. She makes hair units and all that. I said, and she
Right.
got more. She make more money than I do.
She make hair units. Madison may need to reach out to her because Madison is
Yeah, she make more money than I do. I said, but that's cool because that reminded me of again when I was growing up on the farm. Working there and seeing the grown folk working. I'm right there with them. You learn and getting the work ethic, and then she can teach you other things too. And the little baby's already smart because I never heard a 2-year old. You heard 2-year-old like mom and daddy. The little girl tell me my parents like what?
Yeah, they talk. But you know what? Studies have shown that when a mother is at the most of the times
Yeah.
they talk faster. Madison was saying full. By the time Madison was 2, I was like, "You talk too much."
I'm like, how do you know what parents are? You like I say, you kids like that, like my mom and my daddy. She was like, no, my parents are. I'm like, wow,
Mhm.
okay.
They develop faster. Yep.
And so she has an enterprise, out of her apartment doing that way the baby can stay until she's school age. So I'm like, hey, you figured it out.
Yep. Yep.
That's what you do. But the thing is, it's gonna pay off for both of them in the long run.
Yep.
And so I'm pleased at how that worked out.
Yep. Yep. I mean, I've enjoyed this conversation because I think this is where we, as a Black community, need to get back to the basics of being a family.
Yes.
Um, I'm very much so pro family. I'm 100% pro family. Even though my situation is a little different and yours as well. But we still uphold the concept of pro family. I'm
Mhm.
like you. The end of my divorce was because on the other end of the spectrum, I had to. But um, needless to say, we're good. We interact with each other when it comes to Madison. But ultimately, even though I am coming from a divorced environment or relation, I'm divorced. I still believe in pro family.
Yes, yes, same here, same here. Again, hey, we like to say formally married
Correct.
and whatnot, but it does, and I tell it about. I say yes, I look forward to marrying again. It's a beautiful institution
Yep, it is.
and whatnot. So I'd never discourage anyone who wants to embark on that. And a matter of fact, the things I try to do, especially in my teachings, since I deal with men, is build men spiritually. Get them connected to the word and stand in that word. I say because you are the head of the household.
Hmm.
Guess who's going to take most of the fiery darts?
Yep.
And I say, and that's what you got to be cognizant of. So, I mean, your success, so does your family success. What's in Psalm 128? The man who fears the Lord, all will go right with you. Your wife will be like a fruitful vine. Your children will be like olive trees at your table.
Mm.
So you have to be right. Y'all check that Psalm 128 out and whatnot. So, as a man, we got to be on point,
Yep.
and carry ourselves in a way that we deserve that wonderful spouse.
Correct. Correct. And women do the same. There's nothing wrong with cooking for your husband. Period. My dad said a man don't want no woman that can't cook. My dad is interesting. He was like, get in here and learn how to cook. One thing he said that no man want no woman with a nasty house and don't know how to cook. And he made me learn how to cook, like for real. Um, but women have to do the same things. Be nothing wrong with being womanly and doing womanly things. We've gotten so into the point that Miss Independent is worn out and tired. That ain't the life that God has ordained us to be. He didn't ordain either a man or a woman to be alone. But we got to get out of that mindset. Stop letting the world tell us how a woman is supposed to conduct herself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's nothing wrong with a woman being a woman, doing things that women will do, and it varies. Some women out here can ball like some of the best of them, and I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about just making sure your family is good. We got to get back to that. We got to get back to that because our children are hurting, and we don't want to see that. And the world wants our children. They want our children, and we need to get out of being Miss Independent. I'm not going to be too long on this story, but I remember when I was younger, I used to hang around like a group of older women, and they were Miss Independent, and I mean, I admired them, but that wasn't my thing. I said, that ain't my thing. I'm not into that. Um, I don't have and I guess because I was in a two-parent house, I understood it and I was raised around it. And I think that has to happen like that. And I think that's why my divorce was so hard, because I understood the importance of a two-parent household.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was out of the norm for me. Like, no, my parents are still together, and they still together to this day. I'm what, 45 years?
Yeah.
45 years they've been together.
And
So,
that's kind of like me too. You come from a family where you see successful marriages, not just a few. You see a lot of successful marriage. Now, granted, my mom and dad never married, but throughout the family, there's been a lot of. I mean, you talk about folks literally dying together. It's like my aunt and auntie last November. They were together since for 30 years. And she passed away first, and then 2 weeks later, her husband found out 2 weeks later he passed. That is how connected that they were. But so when it came to me going through the whole separation and divorce thing, that's the same thing with you. It's like, dang, I failed.
yep,
So you put this guilt on your back, and it's like I said, especially not being the offended party, but you still put that guilt on your back, because for me, it felt like I failed the Lord.
yep,
And I like, man, and that was a tough one for me there. Like, man, I failed. And I've always worked hard to put my best foot forward. So failure, I've been blessed in that point that failure wasn't very frequent, because I always did things the right way, did it to the fullest. I always remember that everything that I'm doing not for man, but unto the Lord. So I've always had success because I lived that way. But when I guess I was knocked off my high horse when that divorce came, and like I said, I felt so guilty because I thought I had just failed the Lord.
yep, yep. And it is hard. It's devastating. Maybe we can do a segment kind of talking about how to. Well, no, we don't want to talk about divorce because we don't want people to remain divorced if they are. But it is rough. It is. Divorce is rough. It's
Yeah,
emotionally taxing. Mentally, it's like, oh my gosh.
I
Yeah.
guess we could do like a segment on divorce care.
Yes.
The what now type deal,
Correct.
and how to walk through it. Because like I said, that was the best thing for me.
Yep. Yep. And that's key. How to heal. How to
Hmm.
heal. Um, and that's been and it's still been an ongoing journey for me. Learning how to turn off that wife, because y'all know how y'all men are. When even though you're no longer the wife, you still calling, hey, can you do this? Can you? And you
Oh,
have to
no, 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 no! I
get
don't
off.
do that. I don't do that. It's like for the
Not
kids.
you,
That's it.
not you, but the other person. You gotta learn how to shut that door and say, hey, we're here for a reason. Let's keep that door closed, because when you don't close that door, when you've done everything right, because my computer community is real big on no divorce unless adultery. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah,
But when you make that decision and God says, okay, you good, you can do it now, shut that door and move on, so that so you can heal, and the next person coming in doesn't have to deal with the baggage from the past and the ex from the past.
ooh, yeah. That is so key. That is so
Shut
key.
that door. And it took me years to learn how to shut the door. And I said, yep, this is your house and my house. Let's keep it separate. And but it took a long time. And when I got there is when I could truly heal. Uh,
Good.
and move on, and it's good to move on. And it's a good thing. I think my ex just got married. And I gotta send him a text saying congratulations. Because I don't hold grudges. You cannot hold grudges. Because you ain't gonna be able to move on.
Show ain't. You sure ain't, because that stuff will continue to fester and eat at you.
Yep.
And the thing is too, because you got that resentment, hate. Guess what it does? It dulls your light for testifying.
Yep.
You're not gonna be able to fully testify and promote the word if you are dimly lit.
Yes. 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 Yeah. You gotta get. So maybe we can do that. how to move on, how to get prepared for the next part um, of your life. And if it be get married again. And I tell anybody, if you had to divorce and you, because my community does not like to talk about divorce unless adultery was involved.
Well, that's my thing. I mean, sexual immorality, that's the legal means according to scripture. So I definitely understand that.
Yep, and that's the reason I had to move. But hey, God bless. We healed. He's a better person. He's moved on, and God is blessing me to be able to get myself together so that I can move on. And then it's been a journey. It's been a journey, but I mean, it'll be a good conversation to have. I think we could have a really good segment to talk through that. So,
Yeah, I think it's key, and get everybody this what we call a spiritual tune-up.
mhm.
This is a spiritual tune-up that that we love everybody and we want everybody to be at their best and be that light that you are called to be.
Yep.
And that's what we want. I just want to say thank you, Sister E, for having me on.
You know,
Because when I come back on my YouTube channel, I've been off for a while. I said this is the family fighting for family is one of the focuses that I'm really gonna present, because for me, again, it's important that we fight for our families.
yep. Tell me about your channel too before you hop off.
Mine is Keith Jefferson, and that's all it is Keith Jefferson, and I started out as a regular this audio podcast, and then I started developing it. And then what happened? I started having a lot more responsibility, so I had to step away from the channel for a minute. But I think I promised one of my viewers I'll be back in mid fall.
Okay.
And so the thing is like I said, we're gonna focus on fighting for family, because that's one thing that we also do at my church. We have that, I think it's 8 weeks. We had this thing called Fighting for Family. So I decided to take some principles from it and bring it over, because, like I said, when you look at a lot of things, I mean, it's a lot of things separating America, period, into tribes. And in that, it's causing homes to be separated. And that's not what the Lord has intended. And so, we ought to be unified. I tell people, I said it's when I read the epistles, the one thing that comes to my mind the most is that it teaches unity.
Yeah.
And Jesus said to himself, how can a house divided stand?
Yeah.
Yeshua. I'm sorry.
You can say Jesus. I say Jesus. Don't.
And so,
Not like.
so there's so many things in the secular world that's coming into our homes that's the dividing. I know the Lord said, that mother and father, all that we divided. But the thing is, if we are in Christ, we have to be on a unified front.
Yeah.
That's Gentile and Hebrew.
Yep.
Because we're in this thing together. And the thing is, it's better that we come together and fight the forces that are in dark places than to do it separately. So that's why I'm glad to be on here tonight. Again, I thank you so much for having me on.
You're more than welcome. We're gonna do more segments together. Like I said, I might have Alton up here one day and harass him and tell him to do something about that cheap mic.
Oh man, that's how you talking about Mike. I'm thinking he gonna turn that thing up. That just like it went down low.
I wish he was in here and he put in hey him and that cheap mic.
I'm like, bro, get a good audio interface. Don't get the USB mics.
I love to harass Alton. That makes my day. That makes my day more than me. I'm just joking. Alton, if you watching, we good. I might have him up here one
What's
day.
up, my guy? If you on, what's up, man? How you doing?
He probably ain't watching. I'm gonna tell him go watch. I gave him a shout out. But yeah, I want us to do more because we are one in the body of Christ.
Yeah, well, so I want to give my shouts out to my favorites. My favorites are Minister Teo.
Oh yeah, you love Teo. Yep.
Yeah. That's my guy there. And so yeah, I said what's up.
I will. But I think what Beren is doing is good, and what he has done. I got to give him his props. he talked about unification, and he was big on it, and he was pushing it hard, and I see us coming together a little bit more. Um, and certain things have, I think that whole thing with them, we ain't gonna talk about it. Open theists really made us say, hold up, something bigger is going on. We all need to come together and really deal with this. So, I praise the Most High that I see us coming together more than fighting. We still have our little fighting going on.
Well, us in the church have our little fights.
Yep.
So that just be real with it. But I must admit though, when that open theism dropped, I couldn't do nothing but laugh. I ain't gonna lie to you. I said, now this is the point where you gonna see everybody come together. I did, because I'd be sitting back just lurking. I said, I just started laughing. I said, this gonna be it right here. Yeah. And then you realize that you got more in common than you got different.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's how I look at it. And so again, thank you so much, ma'am.
You're more than welcome, sir. You'll be back up here more because I'm gonna get on your nerves. Family, if you've not subscribed to his page, please do. Keith Jefferson. He has great information out there. And I'm subscribed as well. I think that's it. I'm thank you again for this conversation, and we'll have more like this. So, family, y'all have an amazing evening. I am getting ready to go to bed early, which I hadn't got a chance to do in a long time. So y'all just keep us lifted. Thank you so much, and good night. Stay out of trouble, y'all.
Night.